stage, both ladies and gentlemen, but others from across the continent. And now, for those in the traditional creative industries, as well as any other industries which are creative, because they all are, there are so many things that you can find there which can help you be part of improving this conversation while moving forward with your hopes and dreams as colleagues building the hopeful future for this continent.
Wow. My first advice to my students, the people I train, the people I talk to, is that at every stage of coffee, from the farm to the cup, you can gain something. So I first get to know my first advice to my students, the people I train, the people I talk to, is that at every stage of coffee, from the farm to the cup, you can gain something. So I first get to know, like, you as you, what's your passion? Is it going to the garden? Is it going to the factory?
Welcome back from that break. This is the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Erejo, Okila, and this is House of Talent Television. In the studio is Engineer Peter Nyeko, who is the CEO of Manduli's Energy, and of course REPAL, which is renewable energy powering livelihood, renewable energy powering agriculture in agricultural livelihood. Peter will come and tell us about that. But I just wanted to know, he's also REPAL and he's also Chakula, and I just wanted to break that ice for you so you can know that from a creative point of view, Peter is actually a very serious person. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
How do I respond in France? When you say Mexico, what do I say next?
Merci beaucoup is basically thank you very much.
Yes. So how do I respond?
De rien.
De rien.
Yeah.
Okay. De rien, Peter.
Okay.
So a quick one. Just let's talk about Repal. Can
Yes.
Repal go to France? And what is Repal for everyone? Can Repal set up in France with this new, France, new Africa-France relationship? Can Repal also move to France and invest in France?
Thank you very much. Repal is a company I work at, and I was blessed to be part of the team that set it up. We already have quite strong partners from France. We work very closely with a French NGO. We work very closely with a French new energy company, and we are doing a lot of work right now in Uganda, and we are looking to do more work in other parts of Africa. But beyond that, what has birthed out of our work focusing on renewable energy, powering agriculture and rural livelihoods, has been discovering a way to innovate the possibility for electricity in a village to be cheaper than electricity in the city for industrial productive use.
Yeah.
That's an innovation that came out of an Africa-France synergy, incubated in Uganda, and now able to be shared with the world, enabling us to figure out that huge issue. Uganda's president talks a lot about the importance of low cost of electricity for industry.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about the importance of value addition.
Yeah.
This innovation that's been birthed from a France-Uganda ecosystem, from a France-Africa system, has helped realize that already. Yeah. And we'll be sharing that with other parts of the world. Yeah. But the digital parts of that, and part of our digital ecosystem, actually involves another startup, which is Ugandan birthed, which is actually incubated in Toulouse, in France, and is already sharing a lot of knowledge at the forefront of the aerospace industry in Europe, including France. So there are no limits to that conversation.
Yes, yes.
And whatever you're doing, just make sure you do it to the very best of your ability. Make sure you do it so that it not only makes Uganda proud, it not only makes France happy, but it makes the whole world glad and grateful. Yeah. And that's the angle that we're basically pushing. Every one of us has one idea that we may not think much of, but with the right ecosystem, with the right nurturing and the right building, can become something. So if our dear friend, our dear sister in France, in fashion, if she was going to set up a factory, she could even get the investment in Uganda to set up a factory in France. Who knows? What if she finds a way to interact with some of the big French brands out there? Some of the biggest French brands in fashion, in lifestyles, are already working with deep tech and engineering to engineer some of the stuff that they are doing. But who knows? Maybe she's got ways to even interact with some of the stuff they're doing. Maybe they can set up joint ventures together. Who knows? Maybe she can come to one of her friends in Uganda who's built an arcade and invested 10 million euros already in Uganda from their own pocket. Maybe someone like that could even invest in such a Ugandan, enterprise based out of France to then go from France to other parts of Africa. France is actually a very good base to be if you're going to now go and take a Ugandan innovation to West Africa. Yeah. From a base in France, you can do that. If you're going to go to other parts of Africa, which may not speak French, because we found people there who speak Arabic, who speak Portuguese, who speak Afrikaans. Africa is more than just French and English. It's just got so many good things there, including Kiswahili. Yeah. So, of course, I speaking more from my hat as a board member at l'École diplomatique de Kampala, Kampala Primary School, I very much encourage young Ugandans, Ugandan parents, to encourage little kids growing up to just go online and figure out what are the official languages of the African Union. My prayer is learn all of them. Learn all of them, be fluent in all of them, so that you can be fully African. I want to go to Bloemfontein
Yeah.
and speak in Afrikaans. I don't yet speak in Afrikaans, so I've got a job to do. I've got to learn Afrikaans so I can go to SA and be relaxed. I've got to improve my Portuguese so I can go to Playa in Cabo Verde. You know, there's a great man from Cabo Verde in Uganda who's the head of FAO here. I want to go visit Antonio in his home and speak to his people in his language. You know, I want to go, you know, to Morocco and speak to them in, you know, in Marabi.
Yeah.
You know, it would be great to be in an Africa where we don't need translators.
Wow.
Where, if you're in my village, we will shortwave. If I'm in your village, we'll medium wave. If we're in his village, we'll long wave. Either way, we'll communicate.
Yes.
And that would be so exciting. And that's the biggest thing I got out of these last 2 weeks. The fact that you can bring people together, they'll have one thing in common. Every one of us had a penchant for croissant. Penchant is another word in English that was taken from French, and we now own it in English, right? Like croissant. But everyone in there definitely had croissant for breakfast. I met some people, you know, from Arabic-speaking Africa. I didn't speak to them in French. I just spoke Arabic only.
Wow.
I met those who speak Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese, but I tried to meet them halfway and speak to them in Spanish, and they answered back in Portuguese. We made our way somehow, you know. But
you were able to communicate.
Yes, but there's more we can do.
Wow.
Let's sort out that Kiswahili.
Wow.
Let's sort out that Arabic. Let's sort out that Portuguese. Let's sort out that Afrikaans. Let's be able to go and at least have the lingua franca, another French term that we now use in English, lingua franca, and communicate with each other in a way that allows us to share what is deepest. And one thing that made this possible is the fact that His Excellency, you know, the President of France, spoke to everyone in the room in English as well as he was speaking in French to the colleagues who are on stage, the young people.
Yeah.
There were translators in the room who were able to translate different languages to those who had the headphones and so on. But I'll be honest, I was most grateful for my French teachers growing up because I didn't need those headphones. And I could get the meaning behind the meaning within the meaning.
That's the reason why we on the show today, because we wanted to start this conversation from the point of the person who understood, the person who speak French, the person who understood, not the person who was being translated for during New Africa France Summit. And that's the reason why we were thinking that we probably need to have Peter just do a series of interview with these guys. Everyone who has been in France coming back here, we want to hear, did they understand the magnitude of the weight placed upon their shoulder? That this is what we're saying we're going for now. As Africa, this is where we're going. And as France, this is what we want to do with you. What is our understanding of this? How does this begin to shape our perspective and attitude towards moving forward? Sometimes we're stuck. There was a moment, Peter, on that stage when a man, sort of like grabbed a microphone from the president and spoke, and watching the video, and I said, and he felt like he was going native, sort of, and everything remained calm. I mean, you were processing this not from the English translation to France or French translation to English, but directly from there. What was your assessment of that? Of course, we know that he was trying to test the waters to see, am I free or I am not free? But also sometimes, to outgrow the things that we've been through in life, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes we struggle to be in the future, but while trying to be who we are yesterday. It's very difficult to try to be who you want to be tomorrow, but at the same time in who you were yesterday. It's a very confusing statement right there, but we understood something. There was a calmness of that situation at that moment. Yes. What was your assessment, and what did it mean? That assessment really meant to every single black person who was sitting there, including those who are actually the French black people working inside France and their ministers. What signal did it send?
I've got to give a lot of kudos to the French education system, especially in how they train and prepare the diplomats and civil servants for service. I felt so much that everyone in the public sector within France who we interacted with had that decorum, had that calm, had that peace, had that ability. Even those who were in, even those who were officers of the law, making sure His Excellency was safe, even they had a level of diplomacy which was to write to your grandmother about.
But there was no spanking off the stage.
No. And that's something that we can all learn. That's what I think we can learn from that. It's something that we in Africa as young people can learn from. It's something that we can teach kids as they're growing up and say, should we make sure kids learn more about the importance of diplomacy, decorum, and calmness, while not forgetting the importance of making our point heard. But also the importance of listening to someone else's point, allowing them to speak, allowing them to let it all out, to be calm, and then share also what we have to share, but let it be an exchange of ideas, an exchange of experiences, and an opportunity to then let bygones be bygones without forgetting them. And that's really interesting from that point of view. But it's something that not only us can learn from, it's something that also the French private sector can learn from. My prayer is that the French private sector also gets to learn that level of diplomacy and understanding and conversation that the French public sector is incredible at. We, the private sector in Africa, can learn from that. The private sector in France, that's French, can learn from that. The French private sector in Africa can definitely learn from that too. That was something else which we all need to go, take some 3 hours, you know, have some croissants, have a glass of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, have some, you know, raclettes if you're up in the hills and it's cold, and watch the whole 3.5 hours. It's a learning experience for each of us, whichever way we're looking at it, whether we're a young person, a multinational, or a local Ugandan company. Definitely very, very crucial to look at it from all those points of view.
Wow. Peter, we're coming to the evening of our interview today, and I would just want to, first of all, say thank you very much, everybody who has been, you know, watching the program and sharing it far and wide. We also do know that sometimes it's difficult because of the internet in Africa and particularly in Uganda, you know, to the rest of the world, but we will continue to have the broadcast going on, and if you missed a part of it, it will definitely be running over and over for you to be able to catch and not miss any part, or even reconnect with the part that you've missed. And Peter, for me, is having this conversation with you gives a lot more enlightenment to what happened and the insight to what happened on the stage in France, in Montefiore, that day, or in those days that you guys were there. And you had a number of people who came with you. Did you have a chance to actually sit down as a, you know, a delegation from Uganda to say, what can we learn from here? What can we do from here? Did you sort of like organize yourself to try and have a Ugandan caucus there, to try and engage some of these ministers of businesses to do this from a private sector point of view, as people invite in France, or it was business as usual? We do the conference, we all depart to our rooms, and then see you home.
What was very interesting there was you had groups that came on different days. And within those, you had, you know, a lot of support structures within us. We're really grateful to the Embassy of France in Uganda because they actually made sure we were okay all the way through. Even as we were making, you know, connections to other parts of Africa and to France, I think our connections within Uganda have been strengthened thanks to this. We all came from different parts of Uganda, from different walks of life, from different industries, but and different age groups as well. But I felt this interesting gel forming, from when we were trying to find out, where can I find, toothpaste, or where can I find this, the other. But in this journey, our bonds have become even stronger. And there's so much that we've all learned from, what to me and to others, I hope, was the pièce de résistance of His Excellency President Macron's speech. Another French term, which means the main course.
Yes.
And it came down to what he said in French, and I'll try to translate it to English, but what he said
you can say it in French.
I'll say it in English. I'll say it in English. I'll say it in English because they can get it in French on the when they get the whole speech. But the challenge is, watch the speech, learn French, so that in 3 years' time you can listen to the whole speech in French. That's my challenge to people, especially everyone who went on delegation. Anyone who works for a French company, just learn French, please. But the meat of the matter was as follows, or vegan meat if you don't eat meat, was France cannot look at its own future and really make it happen if it doesn't consider the Africa within it as well as the Africa without. That's the kind of message.
Repeat that again, Pete.
For France to really look at its own future,
yes,
it has to consider the Africa within and the Africa without. And it's got to consider the history. Be they joyous histories or be they histories that could have been more joyous. That's my interpretation of what I heard as the meat of the matter, which was, we have all had a past. Let's be honest about that past. Let's each of us admit that past. But let's also acknowledge that and move forward. But remember that within us, there is a part of each other. What was big there to me was there is a part of Africa in France. And I don't mean an African as in terms of someone who looks African, but the Africanity. He used the word Africanity. There is an Africanity in France, and there is an Africanity in Africa. The same way, let's find that common core within all of us, and build from there. And that's what I thought was amazing, because we all know that civilization became in Africa. Life started from here. So when you talk about the Africanity within, you're talking about the core, the building blocks, the beginning. You're talking about, in my opinion, the baby we are each born as. And when we go back to that core, we will find the similarities within ourselves to build that brighter future and that more glorious tomorrow. And to paraphrase His Excellency's words again, to make the planet better again.
Wow. Well, Peter, thank you very much, first of all, for this wonderful, deliberation and the show this morning. And of course, this afternoon or this evening, depending on which part of the world you're actually watching the program from. I want to just take a few moments to just read before you close the show. Peter, I want to start from a gentleman here all the way in France. Eddie Okila, thank you very much for the show. Merci beaucoup. He's written many other things in France, but he says, I love that gentleman speaking French. It was nice to see some Ugandans actually attend this and put on that. I've been looking forward, to see how this will come to pass. I live and work in France. And it was a great joy for me to see that the Africans were in France and were beginning to talk about certain things that were never usually talked about. My joy and hope is that the Africans will take this seriously, and it's not just a political speech or a political stage or a platform, but we are actually able to leave this going forward and capitalize on this going forward. I think that it is important that a president of our time begins to lead a way, a new way of the world going forward. Macron, kudos.
Kudos indeed.
Yes. I have another gentleman here. Says, Okila, thank you very much. I followed the conference from there. I just felt like the delegation from Uganda didn't take much advantage of that. I did not see them engaging business communities there during the conference to actually actualize that to serious business. So I like the topic you've brought. What does it mean for the creative industry? I think it's not just the creative industry. It should be for the production industry and put all of this. We have many companies from France working in Uganda. And can we have also these Ugandans build some multinational companies working in France? That way we'll begin to see the new Africa-France relationship as a reality. Wow, so people are actually taking this very serious.
Yes.
Peter, I want to read one from, a comment here from Kito Diallo says, thanks, Pete, for a great show. I have a question. France is known for exercising assimilation policy of colonialism, which seemingly was the best at benefiting Africans, where it saw many West Africans heading to France. Is this new French-Africa relationship another form of modern-day assimilation policy?
What I'd like to answer to my dear brother and say thank you so much, merci beaucoup, mon frère, is ultimately, when we look at something new, we look at what was old, we learn from it, and we build something better for the planet and for the future. So whatever challenges were there in the way things have been done before, or the way things may still be being done today in other areas, there is what we should learn from that. And he may have highlighted a few things as well, and I believe we shall learn from that. But what's interesting is, it's no longer a one-way street. I think we can all go online and Google and try to figure out how much French investment is there in Uganda. I speak for Uganda because I live here. I believe one will find that it is significant. One might find that it is so significant that it makes a difference. And one might also realize that there are enough Ugandan investments in Uganda that are sizable enough, and we had a few of them on our delegation. Massive entities that would hold their weight in terms of revenues anywhere in the world, be it in France or even in California. The point is, if a company from France can come to Uganda and help us overcome a few hiccups that we have in certain sectors where they have better experience, we also should consider looking for opportunities to invest in places like France and other areas where we can build on our knowledge on this side to make a difference there. But more than that, take advantage of what he highlighted. Say, look, I'll go biblical maybe and go, out of the lion's carcass, honey was found. So if the history in West Africa could have been better, we can make it better now. We could say, could a Ugandan company work through France to make a difference in West Africa? Could it work the other way around? There are so many possibilities. Could a West African country, companies from a West African country, go somewhere else and figure out how to better connect with a place like Uganda or Kenya or Tanzania? There's a lot we can learn from each other. There's a lot we must learn from each other. And there's a lot we need to learn from each other to actually move forward. And not just look at the past as sadness, but look at the past not as something to be forgotten, not as something to only apologize for to make people feel better, but as building blocks for the future. And no matter how bad what happened may have been, there is always a way to turn something around to make the most of that. Because if I'm to be very honest, I'll go, well, I talked earlier about going way back beyond 50 years and talking about the Roman Empire and other sort of things and so on. But even I look at just the last 50 to 100 years, I can now go to Côte d'Ivoire and do business because I speak French and because they speak French, right? Someone from Côte d'Ivoire can come to Uganda and do business if they speak English, because we speak English.
Yeah.
That's something worth thinking about. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
Of course, there may be a lot that could be made better, but that's what we have to start from. We say, look, it's not perfect, it's not incredible, but it doesn't mean it can't become incredible.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it can't become better. It doesn't mean we can't turn a new page and build a new future and write a new novel, as the head of state said. Write a new novel and make it even more joyous.
Wow. Thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah.
I just want to read one more, comment from here as we close the show. And this is really a very interesting one. It's sort of like a comment. It says, Eddie Okila, thank you very much. I hope that we can continue with this conversation for the next couple of days. What I'm really very much particularly interested in, I'm in the art industry, and you're talking about what does it mean for the creative industry in Uganda. Creative industry in Uganda already doesn't have very good policies to be able to help it foster to go beyond borders. And that's something that we need to look into. But it doesn't mean that everything is doom and gloom. What we're really interested in mostly is to see that this thing that France is actually talking about is a new reality of how people begin to view Africa going forward. What I'm interested in going forward is to see how this conversation you've started on this platform with these people will end. But more especially, I want to see that this is not lip service, it's a reality that can be lived and can be practiced and can be tried and tested. This is the only time France has got to prove itself right from many other countries that have always talked about their heart being for Africa, but they do something different. We've had China talk about Russia and China saying that trade with Africa, but the trading has not been balanced. The Chinese trading in Africa is almost one-way street, is not a two-way street. Can France live its promise that a new Africa can be born? Great, words from Mr. Peter Nyeko, and a shout out to him. And I have a question to Mr. Peter Nyeko. He speaks French very well, seemingly. Can he tell us whether he was able to get a sense of truth from the French people? Because sometimes they can be deceptive. Peter, I think you are now becoming like the Messiah on the French things. I mean, you've had the question coming from my friend Peter right there. Peter is into creative arts industry, particularly is a painter.
Awesome.
Yes, he's a paint artist, and he said he's sold. I know he has sold many of his art and craft to the French people. I mean, back in the days when I was still very active, I used to be the best MC for the creative arts in Uganda. At some point, we tried to lead a campaign to raise money to build the National Museum for the creative industry in Uganda. And then that was led by Roberta from Germany, and of course Carol Bodner from Germany as well. And I think there was another gentleman from France whose name I forgot. But that was the discussion. So this relationship has been going on for some time. So Peter has of course benefited from some of this. But then again, everybody is saying, is this something that is going to be a reality? Perhaps we'll bring, people from the French embassy, the director, and maybe even at some point just, put the French ambassador onto the bench here to basically have this conversation. Is it true? Is it going to be a reality? I wouldn't mind actually, having a conversation with the president himself to say, this is what we want to understand this from the Ugandan perspective. Does this mean it's going to be a reality? But over to you, Peter, as we wind up. And
Awesome.
then when you give us that, Peter, we also want to give us the last 3 things that summarizes what you have said today, that of what this summit actually really means for the creative industry. Please
Awesome.
dive into it.
So great. I believe it's real. You can always look at something based not only about what it's spoken, but what has been done. We all know it is a fact that France has really supported the Ugandan creative industry, going way, way back.
Yeah.
Sadly for me as a Ugandan, much more than us as Ugandan business people have, even though we have the ability to. You know, we're learning from France how to appreciate our own. Yeah. We're learning from France how to appreciate Ugandan art and so all rest of that. So it's already been happening. The fact that a new page is being turned to make it even more interesting and involve us even more in that conversation allows for reflection and gives a lot of hope. It's, you know, I speak the way I speak for many reasons, probably because I'm thinking in Luo and speaking in English, but at the end of the day, when I translated to France, you know, and what I was hearing, you know, when I was there, it's a fact that there is a way forward. The work really right now, at least coming on from the summit, is for each of us, you know, 300 plus who went from around Africa, strangely enough, a huge percentage of that from Uganda. That's another point to think about. If there are 300 and 22 from Uganda, Uganda must probably have some form of interest.
Significance, yeah.
Yes, and you know, it's and I mean, I do understand.
That's a conversation for another show altogether, you know.
You know, and that's why it's what does that mean? It means, in my opinion, each of those 22 had something to share with France and something to share with the other African delegates there, which is special about them and special about Uganda that the world needs. Yeah. Each of those 22 who went needs to ask themselves, why me? Why Uganda? What is it that I had to share out there? And what is it that I can still share to make the world a better place and give honor to Uganda? We shouldn't think about it in terms of saying, you know, what do we get from France or what will France give us? No, I believe it's the other way around. I believe it was what France could give us. Yeah. France would just fly in, right? But if you go there and have that conversation, there is something you have to say. There's something which you have to share. There's something which you can do. In some industries, more than one person was on the delegation. And I'd say reflect upon that. What does that mean for the opportunities for your businesses in France, in French-speaking West Africa? There is so much to build on from this. And we, from the business sector, have so much to learn from our colleagues in the arts because they've gone far, right? They've been able to take African art and make it global. Now, can we take African business and make it global? The way African art has gone global? Can we take African education global the way they have taken African music global? Can we take African innovation global the way they have taken African sport global? You see what I mean right there? Yeah. That's what that conversation was happening in there. And it was as honest and as raw as it could possibly be. And I still applaud you know, our hosts for being gracious and allowing each of us to express what was not just at the tip of our tongue, but deep within our souls. Grâce à France. Merci beaucoup et merci à tous.
This one is called manual brewing. This is gravity manual brewing.
Yeah.
It's part of specialty.
Oh.
So we've been talking about specialty. Specialty came and introduced to us manual brewing, two methods of brewing. Okay. That's the main difference between specialty and commercial. Yeah. In specialty cafes, you'll find people, baristas doing manual brewing. Okay. In commercial, they'll be doing only machine, espresso machine. Okay. That's another method. And this is another method. So we do this one manually. What's the main point of manual brewing? And what is our expectations? Yeah. Why do we make manual brewing? What's the difference between this and the normal coffee? Yeah. First of all, it's not about making strong coffee, making whatever. No. we can make manual brewed coffee a very nice one.
Yeah.
What we are looking for is optimum balance.
Okay.
Shouldn't be bitter, shouldn't be too acidic, should be balanced.
Okay.
So someone should drink coffee and enjoy only that.
Yeah. Let's pull up the camera.
When I didn't think I could do it and I wanted to give up, but then my dad, you know, he was there, he pushed me, he would wake me up for training in the morning. When the last day before I had, you know, shots weren't dropping, you know, you just need to have, and you need to have that self-drive, but you also need to have support. So seek for support from your parents. Don't be shy to bring up the idea of, you know, can I go for training today, or maybe can I get a basketball and be dribbling, because you need to be able to not make excuses for yourself. That's a thing that a lot of people subconsciously do. They're like, well, I don't have a court at home, so I can't do anything. But you can get a basketball and learn to dribble, you know. Then when you actually are able to access a court, you'll have a starting point, you know. And also to, you know, just if you love something, give it your all. Because I know there was a time when I played basketball, but I didn't love it, so I was just, you know, going with the flow, not really, I didn't have any sense of direction, I didn't have any goal. But when I started setting goals for myself and actively trying to reach them, that's when I actually started seeing results, like with the national team. I set that as a goal, and, you know, it paid off when I got to play, and also the Kenya camp. Because the second I came back from Cairo, you know, I was sleeping one morning, I had slept, I'd come back, it was the second day I'd been back. I hear a knock at my door, it's my dad. Get up, coach is coming in 30 minutes, be ready. You know, you have to be able to do that for yourself, or have someone who's willing to do that for you. And, you know, just look for opportunities to play. I know there's like a lot of people who can't, you know, it's not as simple as just waking up, you know, getting a driver to take you somewhere. But, you know, look around, maybe your area, there's like a place you can go for pickup. Maybe you can borrow someone's ball, you know, just if you want it enough, you'll be able to put in the work. Yeah.